Hello, welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. I thought today we would film in the garden because it's incredibly beautiful right now. You can see the huge cherry tree all in bloom and the petals are falling everywhere, so there's sort of a white carpet. And I'm going to start this in a different way. We're going to turn the camera around, and my kitten is in here in the kale. And it's kind of fun as he is exploring. There he is. There's Tig. Tig has been mostly an indoor cat for his life so far, and so it's very exciting for him to come out and explore the garden. And I just love watching the behaviors that animals offer naturally, whether it's a horse or a dog or a cat. If left to their own devices, what is it that they choose to do? And I spend a lot of my life observing and being interested in that. So Tig may or may not join us for tea time. He has lots of places he can hide in the garden. And as you can see, this is a massive big bed of kale that has all gone to flower. The flowers are still really tasty. But Tig is free to explore in among the plants as much as he would like. You can see him back in there. Oh, Tig. So today I wanted to talk about offered behaviors. I'm going to turn my camera around. There it is. So I'm out here in the garden today just because it's a particularly beautiful spring day. We have tulips that are coming up. We've got fruit trees in bloom. Hi, Joe. Welcome to tea time. And so out here, it's just a good place for me to sit and think a lot of times. I've got my kitten with me. He may or may not join us for parts of the video. But I wanted to talk to you about offered behaviors. So I've been finding that as I get older, I have less and less desire to get animals to do what I want them to do. And I have more and more desire to try and understand what behaviors they want to offer that I really happen to appreciate. What comes naturally to them that is also fun for me. And this has meant that the progress that I make training horses is slower than what I thought was slow before. When I filmed my first movie, I had something to prove. And so even though I was working without tools, I did a lot of getting Myrna to do something and then helping her learn to enjoy it so that she then offered it. And I still teach that, and I still do that for everything that keeps horses healthy. It's very, very important to me that they can have their feet trimmed, they can be treated if they get sick, all of those things. But beyond the basic health needs, I'm finding that I really much more enjoy my time with horses when I watch their behaviors and I watch what they offer. And then from out of what they offer, I reinforce the things I particularly like. To me, that's much more fun and it's much more interesting. It's not going to be for everybody. Some people really want a horse that is going to be fairly obedient, that is going to be enthusiastic about doing things that are suggested to them, things that they never would have thought of themselves. Oh, Oriana, I'm glad you're here. And welcome to tea time. I see we have a few other people arriving. And I know there'll be some of you guys watching this later when it's recorded. So today I am talking about offered behaviors and how much I enjoy training horses around their offered behaviors. So if I spend time with the horse, I am always going to be either in harmony with them or out of harmony with them. And from that distinction, whether I am in harmony with the horse or I am not in harmony with the horse, they will develop more of one behavior versus another. They're going to offer behaviors all the time. And I get to pick and choose which of those behaviors I find most gratifying in the relationship. And it's really fun to take a horse and spend time with them and not try and get them to be different than they are, not try and get them to expand beyond what they want to be. Just say, of the things you offer me today, which of those things do I like best? Now, one of the things that is really interesting, that is different between me and other trainers sometimes, is I really like a horse to think a lot. I like them to move their ears and their eyes and their brain. I like them to change focus. I like them to be aware of a lot of different things, because out of that becomes a horse that's going to offer a lot of creative behavior. It can be tiring for them sometimes to think that much. So there is an endurance level that builds along with thinking. And other trainers will often want a more straightforward focus where the horse only pays attention to one thing. Or they want the horse to be very, very relaxed until told what to do. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you get out of that is a more obedient horse. A horse that is more likely to do what you tell them, but is not as likely to offer random behaviors. Everybody gets to train in the way they want to train. For me, I really, really like a horse that is going to be a little bit more engaged, a little bit more likely to offer behaviors. Now, you can certainly get that with food reinforced training. You'll get a lot of seeking behavior where they try 10, 20 different games to try and figure out what gets the food. And that's sort of a high intensity rewarding of offered behavior. What I'm talking about is that, but at 100 times less intensity. If we just spend time together where there's nothing particularly I have to offer the horse. All I have to offer the horse is my harmony or my lack of harmony. And from that basis, they have very little extrinsic motivation to be anything other than their perfectly normal self. From that range of behaviors they offer me in their perfectly normal self behavior, I then like to pick and choose which of those behaviors feels the best in our relationship. If I keep reinforcing those, over time there will be more like that, and over time that horse will offer me more and more things that I might enjoy. They start to learn who I am. If Elsa likes this, she might also like that. If she likes that, she might also like this other thing. And having a horse that learns me, that learns to offer, sorry, I have to pause for a second. I don't know if you can see it. There are white petals just falling down all around me like snow as the wind blows them out of the tree. It's really beautiful. So for me, developing a horse that offers behaviors that I can then choose to ignore or reinforce in a very low pressure way is the most fun. That's what I enjoy the most. I see I missed a comment here. Oriana says, I often use a particular position that a horse is in to get something easily from them. Like Nuvem having a front foot forward, so I'll ask for that foot to be lifted in front in my hand as it would be on a foot stand. So yeah, that's one way to do it, where you ask for a thing that's going to be particularly easy at that moment. And that's just sort of one step removed from offered behavior, is asking for a behavior when it is easiest. And I certainly do that too, particularly when it comes to trimming feet and health needs and things like that. But today, I'm talking about offered behaviors. And specifically, I'm talking about changes of focus versus a more steadfast focus. So for people who want more obedient horses, they are going to reward more steadfast focus as long as the horse is not concerned or anxious. But you have to be careful that you don't let the horse maintain a focus somewhere they are concerned or anxious, where it will build into fight or flight. Because I have no tools, if I have no halter or no rope or nothing to control them, no food rewards, I have to be a little bit more careful about reinforcing that steady focus. Because if by accident the horse pins that steady focus on something that's very concerning for them, that concern is going to eventually build into fight or flight that I have no means to manage. So for me, I have an overwhelming desire to reinforce focus changes, because it is the ability to change from one thing to another that is the ability the horse needs when they see something that concerns them to shift their focus to something different that doesn't concern them. So it's not so much that I want them to be changing focus every second. It's more that I want them to be able to change focus when it's important. So we treat changes of focus like sit-ups or push-ups as an exercise that makes the horse more mentally strong. That way, when they are faced with something that concerns them, they have the mental strength to change their focus away from that concern to something that comforts them. And that mental strength is the thing that I want to train. Now, I happen to be lucky that there's a million times like that in a day that a horse offers naturally. I don't have to trigger it. It's faster if I trigger it, and it's considered more horse training if I trigger it, but I don't have to trigger it. It is offered. The key is to notice it and respond to it so they know that that strength is something that I value, that I want them to practice often, that I want them to build power in. The more power and strength they build in that thinking change, the more they're going to get to know me as a person and offer more and more behaviors that I happen to like and reinforce. It's different from having a horse that's very obedient or very relaxed until told what to do. And I guess I want to be really clear with everyone that you get to make the choice what your preference is. Horses are actually incredibly adaptable, and you can shape them really gently in whatever way you think is going to give them the best possible life with you. So I see I have a couple of comments here. John says, will bias towards obedience result in a safer horse, all other things being equal? So John, bias towards obedience will result in a safer horse if you have a knowledgeable operator of that horse. So yes, they will be generally safer until they're put in a situation where it requires them to think their way out of it. And then they will be dramatically unsafe. So, for instance, a horse that takes my direction is going to be safer in traffic where they don't necessarily understand how fast the cars are moving. And I need to direct them around the traffic because I am smarter and I am the intelligent handler. If you put us in a really deep, muddy bog where they're getting stuck and I don't have the knowledge to guide them through it, then you need a horse that thinks for themselves and processes where to put their feet. So in that muddy bog, the safer horse is going to be the one that has practiced more thinking and more focus changes, and not the one that has practiced more obedience. So I guess to some degree we want a little of both. We always want a little bit of both, but you're trying to sort of maximize the potential. Sorry, kitten is coming to visit. Hey, Tig, can you say hi to everyone? Yes, we're talking about offered behaviors. So you get to pick and choose. You can reinforce either to any degree. Obviously, you know, we want as much of both as possible, but a horse is always going to lean a little bit in one direction more than the other. And that's just good to know, and it's good to know what you're reinforcing. George says, listening while finding harmony with Festus, a wild and unhandled 10-year-old BLM burro. Awesome. Welcome, George. And welcome, Festus. That's great. I'm sure you guys have a lot to learn from each other. Jessica says, so on the lowest intensity level, would staying in harmony really be a reward for the horses in offered behaviors, and would lack of harmony discourage future behaviors? Yes. But the trick is, sorry, we have to pause because we have kitten cuteness climbing the pear tree. And you know what, in terms of offered behaviors, I think this is pretty darn cute. Luckily, the pear tree is not very tall, so he can go to the very top, and I will still be able to rescue him if need be. Woo! He's figuring out how to get up and down trees. Good job, Tig. Very important things. Learning how to change focus, figure out which path is the right path. Are we going up? Are we going down? Cats often will go too far up and then not be sure how to get down again. So it's good he's starting with a small tree. There we go. Down he goes. Nice work, Tig. All right, back to the subject at hand. Sorry, small cat intermission there. Let's see, where was I? Scrolling back. Yes, so harmony reinforces behavior. Lack of harmony discourages behavior, basically. However, Tig is joining us again. Very busy kitten. If with horses, if you try and be in harmony for too long, they will end up disliking it. So there is a time limit on harmony. And if you stay too long, it turns from a reinforcement to a discouragement. And so you have to know how much harmony is the right amount of harmony in order to have that work out as a reinforcement. All right, let's see if I missed any other. Fonda says, don't horses in a herd defer to the horse that's best able to take command of a situation? It's not always the same horse. Ideally, that's the case, Fonda, yes. I have seen herds where one horse is a know-it-all and they never give up command because they don't think anybody else can do as good a job. And that's exhausting. That's not a very functional herd, but it does happen sometimes. In an ideal herd, there is some transfer of leadership between horses where one horse will take leadership for a while and then another horse will, and they'll switch that back and forth because making decisions is exhausting. Hi. Tig is sure that he's part of this conversation. And I really like that behavior. So when we're talking about offered behaviors, I really like that, you know, the kitten is jumping in my lap and engaging and doing fun things. Kittens are a little bit different from horses. You can't exactly be in harmony with a kitten the same way you can with a horse. I find that cats and dogs are much more motivated by attention, and they like to know that they are noticed in some way. And we can do that verbally. There's lots of ways we can do that. Horses are a little bit different. They don't always like to be noticed the same way, but they like to be harmonized with. And they're much bigger, they're much slower moving, so it's easier to do that. So those are my thoughts. It is this balance of, do we want a more obedient horse, in which case we choose a lot more relaxation to reinforce. We choose a lot more steadfast, steady focus without the changes. But then if you get in a sticky situation, like I was saying earlier, if you get in that mud bog, and the horse isn't used to changing focus and having that agility in their brain to think, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I step forward? Do I go backwards? That agility in their brain attached to the proprioception that they're getting from their feet becomes very, very important in a situation like a mud bog. If they just freeze up and wait for someone to tell them what to do, it might get dangerous. So there's a balance with all of these things, and it's not black or white. It's very, very gray. You know, there's lots and lots of variations between all of these things. And it's not like, you know, the more obedience you get, the less thinking you get. It's actually sort of like they both evolve at the same time. And you would like, you know, as much as both of them as possible. But if you're training, you have to decide which is the most important in this moment to reinforce. And all I'm saying is that comes in offered behaviors. We don't have to stimulate thinking or not. We just have to notice when it happens and decide how we want to respond to it. And that's where I'm having the most fun. When I go to teach a horse to be ridden, I am probably going to need to develop behaviors where they are more obedient, because I don't know that they're going to offer to be ridden the first time. It's such a foreign activity for a horse. I don't think it would necessarily occur to them that they would want to do that unless they're surrounded by a lot of other horses that are showing it to them. I don't have a lot of other horses who are being ridden right now, so with my group, I will probably have to nurture the obedience side a little bit to the point where they can try things that I suggest, but then also nurture the thinking enough that we stay far away from fight and flight. And they really, really are thinking about what behaviors are going to be best for the relationship. So thank you guys for joining me for tea time. I always get so into these theories, I completely forget to drink my tea, but it's here. And thank you everyone for joining me under the cherry trees. I'm going to take you for a little tour. We've got tulips behind us, and we've got lots of fruit trees blooming. We've got, let's see, what else can you see? The raspberry plants behind, and cherries and plums and apples and all sorts of things. So anyway, thank you for joining me for tea. I'll be back next week, same time, same place, and enjoy your day wherever you are in the world.